Hola, 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 my Viking friends. Bienvenidos. Welcome. Welcome to Argentina. Welcome to Buenos Aires. My name is Pablo Califano. I am one of the many tour guides that will show you around when you come to visit us. I was born and raised 37 years ago in Buenos Aires. I'm sixth generation of Argentinians, and I love showing the people my city. Little background about myself. I became a tour guide and then I started traveling through Argentina. We have gorgeous places that you can visit. I got married 8 years ago and I have 2 daughters, 5 and 3, that I love to show them around as well. When we tour through Buenos Aires, we have many fun places to visit. Today, I'm going to show you some of the highlights you're going to find when you come to Buenos Aires. And I love telling stories. Please, patience, because I'm also crazy about soccer, football. Don't judge me. We are like that in Argentina. I am holding my mate. I drink this. We have the cup with a straw, full filled with local tea. You'll be able to try it when you come here. And let me warn you, because once you try it, you can't stop drinking. This is one of the ancient drinks we have, because the natives from the northeast part of the country used to drink mate as well. And we share this culture with many other South American countries. Shall we? Welcome to Santa Susana Ranch. Buckle up your seatbelts and get ready for our first approach of the day, the Argentinian estancia. The farms in Argentina have an estimated average extension of 1,200 acres, and most of them dedicate their lands to the agribusiness industry. Agriculture and livestock are the main activities. This is the economic heart of the country and home of many traditions and cultures, such as the gaucho lifestyle. So, what is a gaucho? Who is a gaucho? The gaucho was the man from the countryside and includes a whole concept about the lifestyle this person had, this character had, which had basically the freedom as the core of the spirit in his life. The gaucho was the man that worked with the horses in the countryside and eventually settled down at the ranches to work on the farms. In my opinion, is the best combination in between the Creoles, the descendants of the Spaniards, and the natives from Argentina. Inside these bars took place some of the best poetry contests taken by the gauchos and playing with their guitars. The only problem, the result. Most of the times, they ended up fighting. The gauchos were very skillful on the horse, but they were also very skillful with the knives. And that's how they worked out most of their issues in the countryside. The gauchos are some of the most skillful jockeys, and they develop a special relation with the horse. They share long days riding and working at the Pampas extension where the friendship begins. Let's learn some of the games they used to play in the old days. The tropilla was the old way the gauchos trained the horses to take them from one ranch to another without keeping them with a rope. They only had one godmother with a bell and the group follows her. The game now is to mix the tropillas, and when they split, every horse goes back to the original group. The ring race. The gaucho gallops full speed to catch the ring hanging from the arch. The prize will be given to one of the ladies in the crowd. A kiss in return is expected. Let's enjoy some of the dances performed by our artists in their traditional costumes. Malambo, the final dance, performed only by men. The gaucho will replicate the galloping of the horse by hitting the floor with the throwing balls and his heels. It is one of the most intense moments of the day. Caminito is the main touristic street of the neighborhood. The neighbors used to decorate their houses with the discards of the port activity. That's how Caminito was born. Quinquela Martin, a painter, and Juan de Dios Filiberto, a tango composer, are the creators of this artwork. The tourists keep coming looking for the colorful tenement houses, regional products, the origins of tango, and cheer for Boca Juniors, the soccer team of the neighborhood. Every weekend, lots of artists show up to sell their handicraft and paintings. It is a unique spot in the city. I have the honor to introduce to you Mr. Quinquela Martin. He is the reason why La Boca is such a famous neighborhood, because in the 1960s, when the neighborhood was in a very, very bad condition, he thought on creating the first massive street art project known as Caminito. He's considered to be close to the Impressionists, and he dedicated his whole life to paint the famous landscapes of the port of La Boca. Afterwards, he donated most of his fortune to the neighborhood by building back the Museum of Fine Arts of La Boca, a school, the dentist hospital for kids, and the lactarium to feed the children. One of the highlights of La Boca is to visit some of the old tenement houses that were turned into art galleries or gift shops. Most of them decorated by local artists, where you will find regional products from Argentina. Point of view, you're about to be introduced into one of the classic traditions of the Argentinian cuisine, which is the sausage sandwich. We call it the choripan. Look at this. You can't miss the choripan, and you can add the Creole sauce. Sí, vamos, vamos, vamos. Gracias, Juan. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, here.
Well, I have to tell you, the choripan was very good. And here is the proof. There's almost nothing left. Cheers. Salud. One of the things we are famous for in Argentina is the passion for soccer. But we will call it football from now on, please. And I am at the corner of Boca Juniors Stadium. This is known as the Chocolate Box, and it has capacity to fit 55,000 crazy fans that come to cheer every weekend for their home team. Let's play a game. Today is a day match, and we are about to experience what the players do when they go on the field. Everything's shaking. How many people out there? Oh my god. Plaza de Mayo is one of the obligatory stops you have to do when you visit Buenos Aires. Here happened some of the most important protests in our history that molded the country the way it is nowadays. On May the 25th of 1810, inside that white building behind myself, we had the first revolution against the Spaniards and we created our own local government. Then we jumped to October the 17th of 1945 and the working class marching towards Plaza de Mayo. They gave birth to Peronismo, the political party of Peron and Evita. And closer to our days, in the late 1970s, the mothers of Plaza de Mayo, looking for the whereabouts of the missing children and relatives, they identify themselves by wearing a white headscarf, like the one you see painted on the floor. They still march every Thursday, 3:30. I am standing now next to one of the very famous buildings of the city, our presidential office, also known as the Pink Palace. Since the early days was an important location because here was the first city fortress, and eventually later on we built up this pink building that was not pink at first, but in the old Buenos Aires around the 1860s it was very frequent to paint the houses with a mix of cow blood and lime in order to turn the walls waterproof, and that's how we managed to work out some of the issues. Now I have the soldiers passing behind myself. This is the presidential custody and they are on the way to the Metropolitan Cathedral. Now we'll also see the balcony up here. Was very famous because from that balcony many political leaders, including Evita, used to speak to the crowds. The Granaderos are the presidential custody and they also look after some of the historical symbols of Argentina. They're marching now towards the Metropolitan Cathedral in order to exchange the guard at San Martin's mausoleum. Don José de San Martín is our liberator. In order to win the war against the Spanish troops, he created this platoon using the model of European costumes for their army. They had the peak of success in 1817 when they crossed the Andes mountain range and took what nowadays is Chile from the hands of the Spaniards, a big knockout punch for Spain. Later on, they liberated Peru as well. The Granaderos exchange guard every 2 hours. They must remain in silence and absolutely firm, no smiles allowed. Even the floor is a piece of art. Lots of mosaics all together impress the visitors every day. The Church of Pope Francis is one of the oldest in town and was finished in 1852. Intervened by different Italian artists, is one of the mandatory churches to visit in town. I want to bring you today one of the passionate stories we have in Argentina. Is the story of Eva Peron, also known as Evita. This is one of the stories that cracked emotionally the sense of the Argentinian people and changed the way of doing politics. When was this? 1946. She came from a very humble family of the outskirts of Buenos Aires and arrived to the city when she was only 14 years old. She built her whole career as an actress until she met Juan Perón, who eventually became her husband and the president of Argentina. As the first lady, she took with her own hands the responsibility of helping the poor people in Argentina. And that's why she became so loved by many. But be careful, because she's also hated by so many others. With only 26 years old, she became the emblem of the humble people, of the working class in Argentina, for the first time in the history of the country. We can say this was a true fairy tale story, but with a very sad ending. When she was 32, she knew she had cervical cancer, and the cancer took her life away in less than a year. On July the 26th of 1952, she became immortal at the age of 33 years old. Why is this spot so important for Evita's life? Because on this same location was the presidential residence Evita and Peron used together during the whole life of Evita in power. That residence was demolished in 1955 by the enemies of Peron, who took over the country. I told you, this is one of the stories that split the waters in Argentina, and it touched so deep the emotions of the people that every single person in the country will have its own opinion about Evita and the husband Peron. Let's visit together and share some stories of one of the most interesting and famous cemeteries in the world, the cemetery of Recoleta, where the Argentina high class decided to invest a part of their fortunes to build up a unique place for the eternal rest. For the Argentinian high class, to have a mausoleum here is a matter of honor and tradition. There are more than 20 presidents resting in here, and for a local, looking at the names is like opening a history book. The father founders, the people that molded the nation, they rest here. The families dedicated a small fortune to build up this necropolis. This is one of the many mausoleums you can find inside Recoleta Cemetery, one of the top attractions in Buenos Aires city. I'm standing next to the tomb of the family Dorrego Ortiz Basualdo, and they built, as you can see behind myself, a small chapel, small church. In the front part, they recreated a passage of the New Testament you find in Matthew 25, that is about the wise and the foolish virgins. Now, what's interesting on this specific mausoleum is that they combine Catholic and Jewish symbol. You can see the menorah, the chandelier, and the Virgin turning on the light on the chandelier. The cemetery has approximately 5,000 of these mausoleums, and is really something you cannot miss. Some families, such as the Paz did, commissioned the artworks to different artists. In this opportunity, Jules Coutan was the chosen one. He created such a magnificent piece of art in Carrara marble. It contains a message about the final transition of the souls for the Catholics. It also creates a deep impression when you see it live. Let's approach to Evita's mausoleum, the most visited and one of the few with flowers and messages from the people. Evita was brought to this spot in 1976, and her body is resting under strict measures of security. On the outside looks like one more tomb, but inside was performed special work to make it of very hard access. Every July the 26th, people line up to dedicate a few words, cry, or read poems. There is a very important gap of time between her death and the moment she was brought here. What happened? Let's find out. There are so many stories connected in this cemetery that you wouldn't believe it. We just saw Evita, but Evita does not finish on her mausoleum. Nearby is the mausoleum of another body that was eventually exchanged for the body of Evita. How did that happen? Well, in 1952, Peron, her husband, decided to embalm her body. And 3 years later, when Peron was knocked off the power, she was kidnapped and taken by the militaries that ran the country. 2 years later, with the body going around in the city, no final destination for her, they decided to take her to Italy, and she spent many years in the cemetery of Milan, buried under another name, Maria Maggi de Magistris. This was a total secret operation. It's 1974, and we're getting closer to the end of this story. The radical group of Peronistas called Montoneros came one night into Recoleta cemetery and kidnapped the body of the strongest enemy they had with the Peronismo, the General Aramburu. They decided to exchange his body for the one of Evita, and that's how the body of Evita returned to Argentina in 1974, and 2 years later was brought into Recoleta cemetery. Welcome to the ultimate cultural and entertaining experience you must try in Buenos Aires, a tango show. Many years ago, a famous tango composer said, "The tango is a melancholic thought you can dance." We had a massive immigration process in Buenos Aires in between 1860 and 1950, and the result of that blending of cultures was the tango. In less than 50 years, the tango broke all the social barriers and went from being danced at the brothels to the ballrooms of the high class. The influence of the African music, fandango, flamenco, the polka, the habanera from Cuba, the waltz, they gave us a result, this magical music we call tango. First, two men dancing together. Later on, the man and the woman. The man is the one that leads, and the woman is the one that creates, with all the flicks and kicks. Are you ready? My God, did you see those legs all together? Unbelievable. They should warn the public, don't do this at home. Tango and many other things are waiting for you in Buenos Aires. We are waiting for you in Buenos Aires. Gracias, adiós.